So today we are talking about chapter 43, loss, grief, and dying. And I think even though this is a hard topic to talk about, I think it's a very important one. At some point in our nursing careers, many of us are going to encounter a patient that is dying, and how to interact with the family is super important. The goal of our nursing is always to promote a respectful and peaceful death. With compassionate care for the families we're taking care of and that individual. And so this book kind of talks about the importance of understanding the stages of grieving when we're interacting with our families, and also just to understand our own feelings about death and loss. Your book always starts out with some definitions, and so we've got some listed on this slide here as far as types of loss. And so the first one is actual loss, and this is just can be recognized by others, including the person who's having the loss. So it's things like losing a loved one, or maybe you've lost a limb, or maybe you just lost. Your book gives an example of losing a child. So it's things that you have actually lost, but then, like I said, others can recognize or perceive that loss. The second definition is talked about a perceived loss, and this is only experienced by the person, but it's really intangible to us. We can't really see this sometimes with individuals. So sometimes people are mourning the loss of their youth, or maybe they've lost financial independence, but you're not aware of that. So it's a perceived loss, but again, it's intangible to others. Physical loss is when you lose a body part or function. And so your book kind of talks about this, how you can have more than one type of loss. So you might have a physical loss where you lose a body part, but it also could be considered a psychological loss, which is any alteration in our self-image. So if you've lost a limb, perhaps an arm, suddenly you have maybe an altered self-image of yourself, and then you have an actual loss. Others can perceive this loss as well. So you can have more than one of these types. Maturational loss that your book talks about results of a natural development. So your book gives the kind of an example of sometimes the firstborn, if there's a new sibling born, then they've lost their status. I have 3 children, so, with the second child, he was the baby for so long until we had the third child, so he kind of lost that status. Situational losses are results of unpredictable events, an injury or disaster. So if you suddenly, a loved one was involved in a car accident and suddenly died, that would be kind of one of those situational losses, or maybe your home burns down, so those type of things. Your anticipatory loss, you will have individuals that experience this, especially those that have a loved one or a family member that's terminally ill, and they may begin to start mourning before the actual loss has happened. So just being aware of those type of losses, can help you better care for your patients in a compassionate way. Our next slide here talks about grief. And grief is our internal emotional reaction. The grief reaction, it can occur is a stage. So these are the stages that I want you to be the most familiar with. So, for example, like these are the stages that we have. The first is about truly dysfunctional separation from their spouse, and the first one is just as the definition, as much as the stages have a reaction and may have a belief in that stage. These are anchors, so those comes up in our mind others and so she can